It is time for another training tip. This is for desensitizing horses to scary objects. This is going to be a what not to do, why, and what to do instead. What we are not going to do is something I see all the time, and it is called flooding. Flooding is when you lock a horse in a stall with an object or tie a horse to an object. People will do it thinking that if the horse has to be around it, they will accept it, and that is not what happens. When you flood a horse, you are not teaching them to accept the object. What you are teaching them is to accept the fact that there's no escape from the stress object. People will think they are getting results because the horse eventually quiets, but that is not acceptance of the object and a calming of the nervous system. That is called learned helplessness. Learned helplessness is a psychology term that comes from experiments with rats. They would put rats in a box with 2 rooms and a window open in between them. They would electrify one of the floors of the rooms, so the rat would jump through the window into the other room. But when both floors were electric, the rat would jump in between and then eventually cower in the corner and give up. How do we know this is true with horses, that they just give up and are still nervous? Because we can measure cortisol levels. So when we measure cortisol levels of horses that are flooded with objects, they remain quiet in their body and their cortisol levels are still high, showing us that they are not calm and quiet. But if I'm achieving a quiet horse, why does it matter? Well, A, for the welfare of your horse's mental well-being, but if you have a horse that has learned helplessness and is still around and still has a heightened nervous system with high cortisol levels, you are still putting their physical health at risk. And you may get disorders or illnesses like colic or ulcers or anything else that comes from stress. So instead, we use systematic desensitization with negative reinforcement, so that's pressure release or approach retreat. If we take a scary object, plastic bag, and I approach my horse, being aware of his threshold, waiting till he quiets, and then releasing. Ooh, look at that. Studies have shown us that the release actually increases curiosity. This is important because horses can't be curious when they're nervous. They can only be curious when they're ready to learn. Extra points if you can counter condition it with positive reinforcement. Follow me for part 2 where we'll go more in depth on the approach retreat method.